clap your hands real loud. Come on, everybody, take a real deep breath and repeat.
In front of thousands of screaming fans, Elvis Presley was giving the performance of his life when suddenly a mysterious woman walked onto the stage. She moved with confidence as if she belonged there. Security froze. Elvis didn't stop. No one knew who she was until years later, when her true identity was finally uncovered, and it shocked everyone. The night it happened, it was a night etched into the memory of every fan lucky enough to witness it. The air inside the packed arena was electric, buzzing with anticipation as thousands of voices waited for the unmistakable sound of Elvis Presley's opening chord. From the moment he stepped onto the stage, clad in his signature sequin jumpsuit, the crowd erupted into a deafening roar. The king was in his element, commanding the stage, moving with a charisma that seemed almost supernatural and captivating every eye in the room. Cameras flashed like lightning, and for a moment it felt like the whole world had stopped to listen. Then halfway through the show, something unexpected happened. As the band began another song, a figure started moving toward the stage from the side. At first, no one paid much attention. Concerts were always full of excitement. Fans sometimes ran close to the stage. But this was different. This wasn't a fan rushing security or a dancer joining the show. It was a woman, calm and confident, walking straight toward Elvis as if she belonged there. She wore a simple white dress that shimmered under the lights. Her steps were steady, not rushed. The band kept playing, but you could feel the confusion spreading through the audience. Security looked uncertain, frozen between stepping in or letting it play out. And then something even stranger happened. Elvis saw her and smiled. Instead of backing away, he reached out his hand and helped her up onto the stage. The crowd gasped. For a few seconds, it was completely silent, like everyone was holding their breath. Then Elvis began singing again, his eyes fixed on the woman beside him. She didn't speak, but she didn't seem afraid. She just stood there close to him, nodding softly to the rhythm, as if she knew the song by heart. It wasn't planned. It wasn't part of the show. But somehow, it worked. The moment felt almost magical, like two souls meeting in the middle of the spotlight. People in the audience couldn't believe what they were seeing. Some thought she was a fan. Others believed she must have been part of the crew. But her calmness, her expression, and the way Elvis accepted her made it all feel different. He didn't stop the music. He didn't call for help. He just kept singing, and she stayed by his side until the final note. When the song ended, Elvis turned to her, said something no one could quite hear, and gave her a small nod. Then she smiled, waved to the crowd, and walked off the stage the same way she came, slowly, gracefully, and without saying a word. The audience erupted in applause, unsure what had just happened, but completely mesmerized. Elvis finished the rest of his performance as if nothing unusual had occurred, though every now and then he smiled quietly to himself, almost like he knew something the rest of the world didn't. After the show, the story spread fast. People who were there couldn't stop talking about the mysterious woman. Some said she was a fan who had somehow made it past security. Others believed she was someone from Elvis's past, a forgotten love perhaps. There were even those who swore they saw her before, in photos or backstage at other concerts. No one knew for sure. The newspapers picked up the story the next day, calling her the woman who stopped the king. Reporters searched for her identity, fans sent letters, and rumors started to fill every radio station and fan magazine. Yet, despite all the attention, no one could find her. The footage of that concert became one of the most talked about performances of Elvis's career. People would replay that exact moment, the way she appeared, the way Elvis reacted, and the mystery in both their expressions. It wasn't just another show. It became something much bigger, a story that blurred the line between reality and legend. And from that night on, one question haunted everyone who had witnessed it. Who was the woman who walked onto the stage with Elvis Presley? And why did he seem to know her? The woman without a name. The morning after that concert, the world was buzzing. Radio hosts couldn't stop talking about the strange woman who joined Elvis on stage. Television clips replayed the moment again and again. Some fans swore it was planned. Others believed it was pure chance. But one thing everyone agreed on: it felt real. Too real to be a publicity stunt. People wanted answers. Who was she? Why did Elvis smile instead of stopping the show? How did she even get past the guards? The concert organizers refused to comment. They claimed they had no idea who she was. The venue's security team said no one on staff recognized her either. Even Elvis's own manager was silent, brushing off questions from reporters. That silence only made the mystery grow stronger. Soon, photos from the concert began spreading everywhere. You could see her face clearly, calm, graceful, almost glowing under the stage lights. She didn't look nervous or lost. She looked like she belonged there, right next to the king himself. Newspapers gave her different names: the Angel in White, the Unknown Muse, the woman who stole the spotlight. Fans tried comparing her to women from Elvis's past: ex-girlfriends, backup singers, even distant relatives. But none of the matches ever fit perfectly. One photo caught special attention. It was taken just as she was stepping off the stage. Elvis was looking at her, his eyes soft, almost sad. It wasn't the kind of look you give a stranger. It was the kind of look that carried memory or emotion. That single image made people believe there was more to the story than anyone was willing to admit. In the following days, reporters camped outside Graceland, hoping to catch Elvis or someone from his team for answers. But nothing came out. Elvis didn't mention the woman publicly. He didn't write about her, and he didn't explain what happened. For a man who was used to being in the headlines, his silence said a lot. Behind the scenes, though, people who worked close to him noticed something had changed. He seemed more thoughtful, more distant in the days after the show. During rehearsals, he sometimes drifted off mid-song, staring into space as if remembering something or someone. A close friend later said he looked like he'd seen a ghost, not in a bad way, just surprised, moved. That comment only added fuel to the fire. Theories started spreading everywhere. Some said she was a fan from his early days, someone he'd promised to meet again. Others believed she was connected to his family, perhaps a relative he hadn't seen in years. But the strangest theory came from those who believed she wasn't real at all. A few fans insisted the woman wasn't a person but a sign, something spiritual, maybe even supernatural. They pointed to the way she appeared so suddenly, how the lights seemed to catch her perfectly, and how Elvis's reaction was calm, not shocked. To them, she was an angel, a symbol, a message. It sounded far-fetched, but the more people watched the footage, the more mysterious it felt. The way she walked, the way Elvis smiled, the way the whole room seemed to hold its breath. It was almost too perfect to be coincidence. Months passed, and the story refused to die. Every magazine, every radio show, every fan event had someone asking about her. Yet no one could find a trace of her name, her address, or her background. It was like she vanished as quickly as she appeared. Still, for the people who were there that night, it didn't matter whether she was real or something else. What mattered was how the moment made them feel, like they had witnessed something special, something beyond explanation. And for Elvis, that feeling seemed to linger too. In his later concerts, some fans claimed they saw him glance at the edge of the stage during certain songs, almost like he was waiting for her to return. She never did, but her memory lived on in his music, in his silence, and in the endless stories people told about that night. Whoever she was, the woman without a name had become part of Elvis's legend, a ghostly figure forever frozen in that one shining moment when reality and mystery touched. Clues in the shadows. Months passed, but the mystery didn't fade. In fact, it only grew. Fans were more determined than ever to find out who the woman was. They studied photos, analyzed videos, and compared every detail: her face, her movements, even the jewelry she wore that night. It became a global puzzle. One fan, a young photographer who attended the concert, claimed he had taken a clearer picture of her backstage. He said she wasn't alone, that before she went on stage, she spoke with one of the band members. But when people asked him to show the photo, he hesitated. "I lost the film," he said quietly. Some believed him, others thought he was just trying to protect her. Meanwhile, journalists began digging into Elvis's past tours, hoping to find any record of her. They combed through fan lists, ticket sales, and staff records from the venue. Nothing. Not a single name matched her face. It was as if she didn't exist before that night. But then a strange connection appeared. A woman from Memphis came forward claiming she recognized the mysterious figure. She said the woman was her older sister, someone who had once known Elvis back when he was still performing in small clubs, before fame, before Graceland. According to her, the two had met in their teenage years and stayed in touch for a while, until fame pulled them apart. When asked why her sister would appear on stage after all those years, she gave a quiet smile and said, "Maybe she wanted to say goodbye." The statement shocked people. Goodbye? Goodbye to what or to whom? The woman refused to give any more details. She didn't share photos, didn't name her sister, and vanished from the spotlight soon after. Some believed her, others dismissed it as another attempt for attention. But still, the story fit in a haunting way. Meanwhile, inside Elvis's circle, there were whispers. A few crew members said Elvis hadn't been surprised that night, that he had seen her earlier in the crowd and told someone backstage, "She came." No one knew what he meant by that. The more people searched, the stranger the details became. A hotel worker near the concert venue remembered seeing a woman matching her description checking in under a false name. She paid in cash, stayed one night, and left early the next morning. When shown a photo, the worker nodded slowly and said, "Yes, that's her." But there was no record, no ID, nothing to prove she had ever been there, just one person's memory. As the years passed, more theories began to form. Some claimed she was a long-lost friend, others believed she was a symbolic figure, someone who reminded Elvis of his past, his roots, his beginnings before fame. A few fans even connected her to songs he later recorded, saying certain lyrics carried hints about her. One of those songs, a quiet ballad released months later, spoke about a face in the crowd that never fades. Fans believed it was about her, a hidden message, a memory wrapped in melody. But Elvis never confirmed it. Even in interviews, when asked about that night, he'd smile faintly and change the subject. Sometimes he'd say, "Some moments don't need explaining." That only deepened the mystery. By then, the story had transformed from a strange event into something almost spiritual. People didn't just want to know who she was, they wanted to believe she meant something deeper. Maybe she represented love, forgiveness, or something beyond this world. And maybe that's why the mystery stayed alive. Because sometimes when a story has no ending, people fill the silence with their own imagination. Every few years, someone new would come forward claiming to know her, a distant cousin, a friend, a co-worker. But the pieces never fit perfectly. Her identity slipped through every attempt to define it, like smoke fading into the air. The more time passed, the clearer one thing became. It didn't matter who she was. What mattered was how one brief moment on stage could touch so many lives. A woman with no name, a superstar who said nothing, and a mystery that refused to fade. That night wasn't just a performance anymore, it had become a legend. The return of the rumor. Years went by and the mystery of the woman on stage became a story fans passed down like a secret. Some said they had seen her again, others said she never existed. But every few years the rumor would come alive again, stronger than before. It started one summer long after that unforgettable concert. A small-town radio station claimed they had received an old tape, labeled only with the words "For Elvis." When they played it, a soft female voice was heard, calm, familiar, and full of emotion. She spoke only one sentence, "Thank you for remembering." The station swore it was real. Listeners flooded them with messages, saying the voice sounded eerily like the woman from the concert. But no one could prove where the tape came from. Some believed it was a hoax, others thought it was her final message. The story caught fire again. Newspapers brought back the photos, fans reignited discussions, and old witnesses started to reappear. People who had been at the concert described the moment with new details, details that sometimes contradicted one another but always carried the same awe. One fan said she saw tears in Elvis's eyes that night. Another swore he saw Elvis whisper something to the woman before she left the stage, but no one could hear what he said, and the sound recordings from that section were mysteriously missing, and it was almost as if that moment had been protected, preserved only in memory, not in evidence. In the years after, Elvis became quieter about his personal life. He still performed, still smiled for his fans, but those close to him said something had changed. A bodyguard once recalled finding a folded photograph inside Elvis's dressing room mirror, a woman in a white dress. It was slightly blurred, as if taken from a distance. When asked who it was, Elvis only said, "Someone who reminded me of where I came from." That single sentence spread like wildfire among his fans. Everyone wanted to believe it was her, the woman who had stepped into his world for a few fleeting minutes and left a mark that would never fade. As time passed, fans began connecting every mysterious woman seen near Elvis's concerts to her. In the audience, backstage, near hotels, each time a new rumor began, but none of them were ever confirmed. And yet some people swore that they recognized her energy, her calmness, the way she seemed to blend into the background. A few even said they saw her leaving flowers outside Graceland after Elvis's passing, wearing the same kind of white dress. Whether true or not, those stories gave people comfort. They liked to imagine that even in the end she hadn't forgotten him, that the bond between them, whatever it was, had never truly broken. Over time, writers and filmmakers tried to tell her story. Documentaries were made, mixing fact with myth. Some called her a fan. Others said she was an old love. A few described her as something beyond human, a guardian, a symbol, a spirit who appeared to remind Elvis of who he really was before fame took everything else away. But the truth remained out of reach. And maybe that was the beauty of it, because not every mystery needs solving. Some stories stay alive because of what we don't know, because they leave space for wonder, for imagination, for faith. The woman on stage became a mirror for everyone who loved Elvis. To some, she was love lost. To others, a sign of hope. To a few, a message from something greater. But to everyone, she was unforgettable. In interviews years later, one of Elvis's band members was asked if he ever found out who she was. He smiled and said softly, "No, but the way he looked at her, I think he knew." And that was all he said. The truth beneath the spotlight. Decades passed, and the story of the mysterious woman who joined Elvis on stage slowly became part of musical folklore. For younger fans, it was a myth, something whispered about in fan clubs and documentaries. But for those who had seen it happen, it was more than a story. It was a moment they could never forget. Then one day, something unexpected surfaced. A private collector from Nashville claimed he had discovered a set of old reels from an unreleased concert documentary. The footage had been filmed by a backstage cameraman who was documenting Elvis's tour at the time. Most of the material was familiar: performances, interviews, shots of fans screaming outside the venue. But near the end of one reel, something unusual appeared. It showed the night of that concert, the moment she appeared. The angle was different this time, filmed from behind the stage. You could see her waiting near the curtains before she walked out. Her hands trembled slightly, but her steps were sure. And standing a few feet away, one of the stagehands turned toward her and whispered something. The audio was faint, but with modern restoration, one line became clear: "He's ready for you now." The discovery sent shockwaves through the music world. It meant she wasn't just a random fan. Someone backstage knew she was coming. Someone had let her through. That tiny clue changed everything. Investigators and fans started going through old employment records from the concert. They found that one of the assistant stage managers on that tour was a man named Thomas Ray. He had worked with Elvis for a few years, then disappeared from the industry entirely. When a journalist tracked down his family, his daughter agreed to share something he'd left behind, an old diary. Inside, a few pages mentioned Elvis, and one note stood out. "The night she came back, he told me to let her through, said he'd know when the time was right." That single line was enough to reopen decades of curiosity. She came back. Those words echoed in fans' minds. Who was she to Elvis? Why did he want to see her again after all those years? The answer started to come slowly, piece by piece. An old friend of Elvis's mother mentioned that before fame, Elvis had been close to a girl from his church choir, someone who shared his love for gospel music. They sang together at local gatherings and sometimes dreamed of performing on big stages one day. But when Elvis's career began to rise, their paths separated. No one could confirm her name, but the timelines matched. The way the woman moved that night, calm, familiar, at peace, made sense now. She wasn't a stranger. She was someone from before the fame, before the chaos, before the world called him the king. Some people believe that she had promised to see him again one day, not as a fan, but as a friend who remembered who he truly was. And maybe that night she kept that promise. Those who knew Elvis well said the encounter changed him. After that show, he seemed softer, more reflective. He talked more about his childhood, his faith, and the people who shaped him. It was as if that brief meeting reminded him of something he had lost along the way, the simple human side of himself that fame had buried. Whether she came to say hello, goodbye, or something in between, no one truly knew. But what became clear was that her appearance wasn't random. It was something deeply personal, a private moment that just happened to unfold in front of thousands. When the restored footage was finally released to the public, people wept watching it. You could see the look on Elvis's face when he saw her. Not surprise, not confusion, but recognition. He smiled, not like a performer greeting a fan, but like a man seeing a memory step out of time. And for a brief moment, the music stopped being just entertainment. It became something sacred. That's why, even decades later, people still talk about her, not as a mystery anymore, but as a reminder. A reminder that even legends have hearts that remember. The legacy of a moment. Years after Elvis left the world, the story of the mysterious woman on stage refused to fade. It wasn't just a footnote in his career anymore, it had become a legend. Even people who weren't fans of Elvis had heard about the woman in white, the stranger who walked into history, stood beside a superstar, and disappeared into silence. For decades, fans searched for closure. They wanted to believe she was real, that her name existed somewhere in a forgotten letter, an old church record, a dusty photograph. But in time, people began to realize something deeper. Maybe her identity didn't matter as much as the moment itself. That night had captured something that words couldn't explain. The rare instant when fame and humanity met on equal ground. In interviews, people who were at that concert still describe it vividly, as if it happened yesterday. They remember the heat of the lights, the energy in the air, the way the crowd went quiet when she appeared. Some even admit they didn't care who she was, they just knew they had witnessed something pure, something real. Elvis's biographers often wrote about how that moment revealed another side of him. Beneath the fame, the gold suits, and the flashbulbs, there was a man who never stopped yearning for connection. Something beyond applause, beyond fame, beyond the music itself. And perhaps that's what she gave him for those few minutes on stage. A glimpse of something familiar, grounding, human. After the newly found footage was released, it reignited the world's fascination. Fans analyzed every frame, slowing down the video to catch every glance, every smile, every breath. You could see it clearly, the way Elvis's expression changed when he saw her. It wasn't surprise or fear. It was recognition, gentle, calm, almost grateful. People cried watching it, even those who weren't born when Elvis was alive. Something about it reached across time. It reminded everyone that even legends need moments of truth, reminders of who they are beneath the noise of fame. Historians have said that every great artist has one story that defines them, not in their rise, not in their fame, but in their quietest, most human moments. For Elvis, it wasn't a chart-topping song or a sold-out arena. It was this. One woman, one night, one silent exchange that told a story no interview ever could. It became a symbol, not just for fans, but for anyone who ever loved his music, because his songs were always filled with longing, nostalgia, and the search for meaning. That night showed people that those feelings weren't just lyrics, they were real. Some believe the woman's visit had a purpose. Maybe she came to remind him of where he started before the fame. when he was just a young man singing in church, hoping someone would listen. Maybe she came to give him peace, to remind him that even in the glare of fame, he was still the same boy from Tupelo, Mississippi. Others think she represented something even greater, the idea that the past never truly leaves us, that sometimes life gives us one last moment to reconnect with what we've lost. Whatever she was, whoever she was, she became part of Elvis's soul story, the quiet moment that gave depth to all the noise that came before. As the years rolled on, her image, that single frame of her on stage beside him, became iconic. Artists painted it, photographers recreated it, filmmakers used it as a metaphor for love, loss, and destiny. Even tribute performers mention her in their shows, as if keeping her spirit alive is part of honoring Elvis himself. And yet, despite all that, no one ever found her. Her real name was never confirmed, her history never traced. It's as if she existed only for that one night, to step into the light, remind a legend of who he was, and then return to wherever she came from. But maybe that's exactly what makes the story so powerful. In a world obsessed with proof and facts, the mystery of the woman on stage remains beautifully unsolved. It's a story carried not by evidence but by feeling, the kind of truth that doesn't need explanation. Fans still gather every year to talk about her. At Graceland, during the anniversary celebrations, people share their theories and stories. Some say she was his first love. Others believe she was an angel. But in the end, everyone agrees on one thing. She brought out something in Elvis that no one else ever could. That look in his eyes, that gentle smile, that peace, it was the real Elvis, the man behind the legend. And that's what keeps this story alive, not the mystery, but the humanity. When you watch that old footage today, time seems to slow. The music plays, the crowd roars, and then she appears, calm, steady, radiant under the spotlight. Elvis sees her, and in that instant you see him differently too. Not as a superstar, not as the king, but as a man who remembered something pure, something lost long ago. That's why people still talk about her. Because that night wasn't about fame or performance, it was about connection. Two lives crossing paths for one last time, captured forever in the light of a stage. And even though decades have passed, that moment still feels alive. It reminds us that behind every legend is a human being, one who still searches for meaning, memory, and love. The mysterious woman may never be named, but her presence will never fade. She stepped out of the shadows for one fleeting moment, changed the story of a legend, and vanished again, leaving behind not confusion, but wonder. And maybe that's all she ever came to do. In the end, no one truly knows who she was or why she came. But that night, she gave the world a glimpse of the man behind the legend. For a few precious minutes, Elvis wasn't the king. He was simply human, and that's what made the moment unforgettable. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.